My name is Eleanor Reed. I'm 72 years old, a widow, and these days I mostly keep to myself. I live in a quiet little house outside of Boston, with creaky floors and a porch that blooms in spring. Most of my days are calm books, knitting, the occasional visit from my neighbor Gail, and a warm pot of tea. It had been months since I last heard from my son Michael. He's busy, he always says. Life, work, the kids, something or another. I don't push. I've learned not to. But then, the Saturday before Thanksgiving, my phone rang. It was Michael. "Hey Mom," he said, his voice lighter than usual. "Got a second?" I said yes, of course. My heart had already quickened. "We were thinking, the kids really miss you. Would you consider flying out here for Thanksgiving? It wouldn't be the same without you." That last line, "it wouldn't be the same without you," lodged somewhere deep in my chest. It had been so long since someone said they wanted me. Not because I had something to give, or something to do, but simply for who I am. Vanessa, his wife, even texted afterward, "Fly out, Grandma. We want you here, really." And just like that, I started to believe it. Believe that maybe, just maybe, I was still part of something. I packed with a kind of hope I hadn't felt in years. I even brought my old pie dish, the one I used to make pumpkin pie with every Thanksgiving when Michael was little. I bought a new navy blue cardigan that made me feel like myself again. I picked out books for the grandkids, and even grabbed a box of dark chocolate truffles Vanessa used to like. I didn't tell my bridge group I was leaving. Something in me wanted to protect the hope, keep it small and warm. Because deep down, I thought this might be the year I was remembered the way I used to be. Not as a background character, not as an afterthought, but as their mother, their grandmother, a person who mattered. My flight landed right on time, 3:10 p.m. at the San Jose airport. The sky outside was a soft gray, the kind that makes everything feel a little quieter, a little slower. I made my way to the arrivals area, wheeling my small suitcase behind me, coat folded over my arm. Gate 4C was buzzing with activity. Families hugging, kids running toward waiting arms, balloons bouncing, signs that said "Welcome Home" scribbled in bold markers. There was laughter, there were tears, and I stood in the middle of it all like an unclaimed package. 40 minutes passed, then 50. I checked the flight screen twice. No mistake, I had arrived when I said I would. Till no sign of Michael, no call, no text. I refreshed my messages, hopeful for just one reply. Nothing. I reread Vanessa's last text again, "We'll be there. Kids can't wait to see you." I had replied, "Flight lands at 3:10. Can't wait to hug everyone." Silence. The longer I stood there, the heavier the coat became in my arms. My feet ached, but I refused to sit. Sitting would have made it real. Sitting would have made it look like I had no one coming. Then my phone buzzed. Not a call. A notification from social media. My heart leapt, not because I cared about those things, but because it's where they often posted before they remembered to call. I opened the app. There it was, a photo posted just minutes earlier. Michael, Vanessa, the kids, all crowded around a beautifully set table. Candles lit, turkey carved, plates full. Michael wore the sweater I gave him last Christmas. Vanessa's smile beamed across the frame. Ethan and Lily, the kids, held glasses of cider like a toast. The caption read, "Full house, full hearts. Happy Thanksgiving from our family to yours." I stared. I read it again. Full house. There was no seat for me in that picture, no empty chair, no space left. I didn't cry, not then. I just turned. I slipped on my coat, pulled my suitcase handle up, and walked. Past the families, past the signs, past the people who were wanted. My footsteps echoed louder than the sounds around me. No call came, no apology buzzed in. I didn't even know where I was walking yet, but one thing was clear: I wouldn't be standing there waiting to be remembered any longer. Because the truth, as quiet and sharp as a winter wind, was this: they forgot me. And this time I wasn't going to remind them. It was cold outside the terminal. The kind of California chill that seeps in when the sun starts to dip, and no one expects it. I didn't call a cab. I didn't order a rideshare. I just walked. The sidewalk stretched past rental car kiosks and parking structures, my suitcase making a soft plastic rattle with each step. I didn't have a destination in mind, only a direction away. A few blocks out, I spotted a diner. The neon sign buzzed weakly in the growing dusk. Maggie's Diner, home of the best pie in town. The windows were fogged from the inside, paper turkeys taped on the glass. Something about it felt safe. I stepped inside, and a small bell above the door jingled. The warmth hit me like a blanket. Vinyl booths yellowed menace. A woman behind the counter with a pencil behind her ear looked up and said, "Happy Thanksgiving, sweetheart." "Same to you," I replied, voice steady but small. I picked a booth near the window. The seat was warm. My suitcase sat beside me like a loyal little dog. I ordered pumpkin pie and a cup of tea. While I waited, I didn't check my phone. I didn't want to. The silence was its own kind of answer. When the pie arrived, it was warm with a generous dollop of whipped cream slightly leaning to the side. The tea was strong, bitter just the way I liked it. I took a bite. It was the best piece of pie I'd had in years. Not because of the flavor or the crust, though those were just fine, but because, for once, I hadn't made it for anyone else. I hadn't baked it with love hoping it would be returned. I hadn't served it while someone else took credit for the moment. This slice was mine. I ate slowly. I didn't rush. I didn't wait for someone to burst through the door apologizing. I knew better. And still I was whole, still breathing, still sitting at a table with a hot drink, warm pie, and a sense of self I hadn't felt in decades. When the waitress brought the check, she asked, "Want another slice to go?" I paused, then nodded. "Yes, for later." She winked. "Best decision you'll make all day." And I believed her. I left the diner with the pie in a white paper bag, the scent of cinnamon and nutmeg trailing behind me. I didn't have a plan, but I wasn't lost. There's a strange kind of peace that comes when you stop expecting the people who hurt you to fix it. That night, I didn't chase their love. I chose my own. The next morning, I woke up in a modest motel just off the highway. Room 214. The heater clanged like an old radiator in a school basement. But it worked. The bed was stiff, the blanket scratchy, but I had slept, really slept. No tossing, no waiting, no hoping. I made a cup of modal coffee, the kind that tastes like cardboard and stubbornness, and stared out the window. The pie from the night before was gone. The paper bag sat crumpled beside the trash can, but something lingered. A clarity. A weight I hadn't realized I'd been carrying was finally, at last, beginning to lift. By 9 a.m., I was walking to a small postal annex a few blocks down. I didn't know why, until I saw the rack of greeting cards near the counter. That's when her name filled my chest like air. Sophie. My granddaughter. Michael's daughter from his first marriage. She was 23 now, studying nursing in Oregon. She was the only one who still called just to talk. The only one who still sent birthday cards. The only one who ever said, "I love you," without needing something. I bought a single envelope, asked the young clerk for a stamp, and sat at a small writing table in the corner. I pulled out the small notebook I always carried, half recipes, half reminders, and tore out a clean page. And then I wrote, "Dear Sophie, you once told me I was your safe place. I want you to know that hearing that meant more to me than most things in this life. I came all the way out here for Thanksgiving. I packed a pie dish and my best cardigan. I waited at an airport for people who said they wanted me there. They didn't come. But in that silence I found something I didn't expect: room to remember who I am when no one's asking me to prove it. I don't want pity. I just want to say I'm still standing, and I'm starting to choose better. Love always. Grandma Eleanor." I sealed the envelope, wrote her address from memory, slid it into the outgoing bin like I was letting go of something sacred. She wouldn't fix the pain, but she was the one person I still trusted with the truth. Later that afternoon, while sitting in a small cafe near the airport with a view of nothing special, I checked my email and booked a flight home. Same airline, same gate, same cardigan. But a different woman would be boarding. I no longer needed a place at Michael's table. I had just given myself one. By the time I got home, the porch light was still on. I had left it on, half expecting to return tired, full, and maybe a little loved. Instead, I returned clear. The house smelled faintly of lavender and old wood. I set my suitcase down in the hallway and made a cup of chamomile tea, letting the kettle hiss and steam fill the silence. Then I walked to the drawer next to the fridge, the one labeled documents. Inside were the folders I hadn't touched in years. Michael's was the thickest. I sat at the kitchen table and began going through them slowly. There were receipts for car insurance I'd quietly paid, a tuition statement from Ethan's private preschool with Vanessa's handwriting, "We'll pay you back after Mike's bonus hits." They never did. Medical bills I helped cover. A co-signed mortgage from 2010. A mechanic's invoice when Michael's transmission failed. All of it, unsigned IOUs no one remembered but me. Page after page, I turned them over, not in anger, not in sadness, but in clarity. This was what 15 years of quiet giving looked like, not generosity, not grace. Obligation. The kind women like me are trained to carry with a smile. Then I pulled out the smaller folder labeled Sophie. Inside, birthday cards with handwritten thank you notes, a graduation announcement from her college, a copy of a postcard from Vermont that read, "Wish you were here. Fall is wild and wonderful." There were no receipts in Sophie's folder. Only love. That night, I wrote in my notebook again, not a letter, just a list. Things I had paid for quietly. Down payment on Michael's second car. Medical deductibles. Babysitter during Vanessa's exams. Legal retainer when Michael left his first wife. Groceries when they couldn't make ends meet. Birthday parties. Camp fees. Donations to school fundraisers I never attended. Flights they never reimbursed. Page after page. I hadn't done it because I was rich. I had done it because I was a mother. Because I thought that was love. That if I kept showing up, they'd see me. But the truth was harsher. I had been financing a relationship that didn't exist anymore. I closed the folder. And for the first time, I didn't feel guilt. I felt done. Done being the backup, the safety net, the person they remembered only when something needed patching. There's a special kind of grief when you realize you were never part of the story the way you thought. But there's also power. Because once you see the truth, you can decide what happens next. The next morning, I was at the bank 10 minutes before it opened. The sidewalk sparkled with a thin layer of frost, and my breath came out in slow puffs. I wore my oldest boots and the same navy cardigan I had flown in. It didn't match my scarf, but I didn't care. I wasn't there to be seen. I was there to be heard. The teller greeted me with that polite tone people reserve for the elderly. "Good morning, Mrs. Reed. How can I help you today?" "I'd like to speak to someone about my accounts," I said. "All of them." He blinked and nodded, then called someone from the back. A few minutes later, I was seated in a glass-walled office with soft chairs and a fake fern in the corner. The woman who met me introduced herself as Natalie. She looked young but capable, like someone who answered emails at stoplights and kept almonds in her purse. "What can I do for you, Mrs. Reed?" "I want to suspend all automatic payments. Every single one, starting today." She hesitated, then pulled up the screen. "You have several recurring transfers to family members, tuition, car payments, monthly support, a few scheduled gifts too." "Keep the charities," I interrupted. "Stop the rest." Her fingers paused on the keyboard. "Are you sure?" "Yes." She didn't press. She just clicked, typed, nodded. "Done. Done. And one more thing," I added. "I want to revoke power of attorney. Michael Reed." Her eyebrows lifted. "Understood." She printed the form and slid it across the desk. I signed with a steady hand. When I left the bank, the frost had melted, and the morning sun cut sharp angles across the pavement. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt light. I stopped at the corner bakery and bought a warm roll, then walked the long way home. No errands, no timeline, just me and my thoughts. Back home, I called my attorney. Mr. Hawthorne had handled my husband's will years ago, and had updated mine, last in 2008. His voice on the other end was still familiar, patient, precise. "I need to revise my will," I said. "All right," he replied without hesitation. "What's changed?" "Everything." We scheduled an appointment for the following morning. That afternoon I sat on my porch with a mug of peppermint tea and a blanket around my knees. The air smelled of chimney smoke in early winter. I wasn't thinking about revenge. I wasn't angry. I was making peace. But peace sometimes looks like drawing a line. And this time I wasn't drawing it in pencil. The next morning, I sat across from Mr. Hawthorne in his quiet law office. Same green shutters. Same gold-framed photo of his bulldog in a Santa hat. He hadn't changed much, but I had. "I want to leave everything to my granddaughter, Sophie," I said. "The house. The savings. The investments. Everything." He nodded. No surprise, no judgment. "And I want it protected," I added. "No loopholes. No challenges." We spent the next hour working through the paperwork. House deed, retirement accounts, CDs, even the antique jewelry tucked away in the upstairs drawer. Sophie would be the sole beneficiary. She can access the trust for education, housing, or emergencies, I said. And I decide what counts as an emergency while I'm still here. When we were done, Mr. Hawthorne gathered the pages into a folder and looked at me gently. "Would you like to include a letter of intent?" "Yes," I said. "I've already written it." He smiled. "Then we'll notarize everything and attach your letter." Back at home, I placed the signed documents in my fireproof box beneath the bed, alongside a single folded note that read, "This is not punishment. This is honesty. Love that isn't seen becomes weight, and I'm done carrying it alone." Later that afternoon, my phone rang again. "Michael." I let it go to voicemail. Then came the text. "Hey, Mom. Just checking in. Vanessa said she tried calling. Let us know when you're free to talk. Still no apology. Still no mention of Thanksgiving. They weren't reaching out because they missed me. They were reaching out because I'd gone quiet. Silence unnerves the people who are used to your noise. You're giving your yes. And I had stopped giving. That evening, I opened the cabinet beneath the sink and taped a note inside the door. Just for me. Things I no longer owe. Explanations. Second chances to people who waste first ones. A seat at a table that forgets me. Silence. Things I still have. My name. My home. My voice. My granddaughter. My peace. The next day, Sophie called, her voice bright, steady. "I got the earrings," she said, laughing and crying at once. "Grandma, I don't know what to say." "You already did," I replied, "when you showed up without needing a reason." We talked for over an hour. I didn't tell her about the will. I didn't need to. She had already earned her place by being present, not perfect. That night, I lit 2 candles at the kitchen table, not for guests, not for show. For me. And when I sat down with my bowl of soup and a single glass of wine, I whispered the only thing that still mattered. "I'm still here." And I was.